Hello everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of Astrological Duets. My name is Christina, and I'm covering our regular host, Alejo. Before jumping into the topic itself, I'd like to make a few reminders. First of all, I'd like to explain more about the nature of astrological duets. So these are not tight lectures. These are more of interactive sessions, which enable all of us to participate in productive discussions and find solutions to pressing issues. Another important announcement is about our 56th annual conference, which will happen between 28th of August and 1st of September. So there will be an online option as well as residential. And you can find more information on our website. We've received some inquiries about when we'll make the link active for bookings. This will happen by this time next week, roughly. We're still sorting some things out. But there will be great discounts for early comers, and yeah, it will be great. So if you can join us on site or online, it will be perfect. So do come in. Right, so today we'll discuss the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, and we have Wendy Stacey, our Astrological Association Chair, and Jadranka Coic, our Treasurer. Wendy has been on the board for 25 years, so she knows it all, and we all know her. She's been great. And Jadranka has been a teacher for the Astrological Lodge for almost 8 years, and she's been on the board for 5 years. So over to you. I think before we jump into the conjunction itself as an aspect, maybe we'll need to start from the basics themselves. So when we think about Jupiter and Uranus separately, what do you make of it?
Is it a question for me and Wendy, or is it a question for everyone?
It's for both of you, and everyone can jump in. If you'd like to jump in, please raise your hand or type it into the chat box.
So Jupiter for me is all about joy and expansion and opportunities. So everything that's expanding and becoming more open for us to take advantage of. And Uranus, I have difficulty with my clients because I never know whether to say Uranus, which sounds like urine, or Uranus, which sounds even worse. So I end up saying Uranus. But Uranus is the maverick, isn't it? It's the planet that, it gives us the opportunity to be creative in an unconventional way and come up with solutions for humanity that we never thought of before.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thanks, Letitia.
That's just my take on it. I'd love to hear everyone else's.
I actually don't like Uranus that much. I prefer Saturn. I'm sorry to everyone who are like a Jupiter club. I'm sorry, I don't like Jupiter. I like Uranus. Okay. Jupiter for me, it's always expansion, but expanding is not always good. You know, sometimes we need to limit ourselves and put ourselves in order. While Uranus brings new ideas, it's kind of eureka moment. Things are happening all of a sudden, sometimes even without our influence or wish. You know, Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, it's not something that is happening every, very rarely. It happens every 14 years because Jupiter takes about 12 years to go around the zodiac. Uranus takes 84, so they meet roughly about every 14 years. And they meet and they move roughly 60 degrees backwards every time they meet. And they, after synodic cycle of 84 years, they make really lovely 6-pointed star in the sky. So it's on the zodiac. So it's very nice to look at it. It's happening every 14 years, but we are talking about this conjunction in Taurus. What is different with this one is that it's happening in Taurus last one was in 1941. One before that was in 1870 something. And before that, for 500 years, we didn't have conjunction in Taurus. I have here paperwork. It was in 1858, the last one, 41, 2024. We will have next one in 2007. And before that, we had it in 1015, 16, 98, and 99. So for about 800 years, we didn't have a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. So, Wendy, would you like to add something?
Yeah, well, it's yeah, I mean, and the interesting thing is, so we've only really got to compare it to the 1941 conjunction, which was, of course, you know, in the middle of World War II. It was only days before the Blitz, the biggest Blitz in London, the final bombing in London, and the largest. And there was also the first that was the paratroopers coming in Crete. There was the Battle of Crete, which we all learned at school in New Zealand, because the New Zealand army was scattered amongst the island of Crete during that. But what's interesting is they're both very much to do with the sky. Both the you know, the paratroops coming in from the sky, the same with the Blitz, and Jupiter Uranus are both associated with sort of sky fathers, and you know, and so we do expect things to be associated with the sky with that. I mean, we've had freakish weather this week in Dubai, or this week, you know, so you expect things, I guess, with weather, anything to do with the sky, aviation, things like that. But in Taurus, it's where it's not very comfortable. Jupiter Uranus, it's more about, you know, the body, and more anchored, and about finance and many other things. But so I think we can expect some unusual things with this particular conjunction, which is occurring on Sunday. It's very close. But we've already felt it. We've already felt the effects of, you know, building up to that. So I think there's more to come, though. And particularly because the dispositor of the conjunction Venus is at 19 Aries, which is the same degree as a total solar eclipse we've just had. So yeah, I think all things to do with sky, but all things to do with Taurus as well. So money, possessions, materialism, banking, body stuff, sugar, you know, all these things will be come under the radar with this conjunction.
So we have one interesting comment from Caroline, that the 1941 conjunction was also conjunct Argo, which changed the situation. And I think this one is interesting to mention. When we talk about this conjunction in Taurus, could we also maybe foresee some environmental issues getting worse or getting better? What do you guys think?
You know, Taurus is a sign connected with earth, and you know, I always think our food, agriculture, anything that is happening, and whatever is happening in earth and Taurus, it's slow, it's fixed sign, so nothing happens all of a sudden. But probably we will have all these things coming out inside what's happened. As you know, I just read today about Thames water and what is doing to the Thames, and how there are like various seepages of sewage in a Thames, and you know, there are, you know, it's so polluted, they recommend it not even let your dog go into the river. That's how bad it is at the moment. So I think this will, you know, surface things like Jupiter, Uranus, like massively toxic things. Although I don't connect Jupiter with the toxicity, but you know, it's about the bad effect on the people that it may have.
I think that Taurus is a sign that doesn't like change and doesn't like to innovate. Actually, likes to keep the status quo as it always was, and it feels very uncomfortable with making big changes. But with Jupiter saying, hey, it's okay, you know, this can turn out quite well if you'll just be a bit more flexible and innovate something for the better of humanity, then in terms of the toxicity in the water, which is worldwide, let's face it, you know, for different reasons, but human greed, basically. But you know, maybe let's be optimistic. Maybe this conjunction is going to bring about some positive changes to influence the health of the water, thus the health of the earth, and thus humanity.
Yeah, let's hope so. You know how I like to take things from the positive perspective. So yeah, I agree on that. What I've noticed with these Taurus conjunctions between Jupiter and Uranus over the years is that some sort of battles, wars have occurred. It's like a repeating cycle. And as much as I hate to ask this, can we expect World War III or some sort of deterioration between the conflicts in Israel?
I think, sorry.
Wendy talk.
Well, you know, with Taurus, it's about what's yours and what's mine. And, you know, it's about possession, it's territorial. And Jupiter Uranus, you know, they're like wild horses together. They're provoking, they provoke, they're unpredictable together. But they're not, you know, they're so I think there's a lot of innovation that can happen. It can bring surprises as well. I think it depends on what it triggers, where you know falls in the world, and what leaders it triggers, and things like that. For example, you know, the 22nd degree of Taurus is our own Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's sun. It's opposite Joe Biden's Mercury. It picks up Trump. It picks up the presidential chart. It picks up, you know, a lot of things. So it's going to trigger a lot of things politically. So, you know, how much control we have over that is, you know, yet to be determined, I think. So, I mean, I would hope not, but I don't know if there's, you know, I don't expect it, but then you know, Jupiter, Uranus don't really give us what we expect either. But it's still until that, you know, what's yours and mine. If that wasn't, you know, once that leaves, the conjunction actually separates, then that may not be so much of an issue.
But
You know.
if you look like historically, if you look like from the 1900, every conjunctions brought some conflicts. In the 1900, we have a Boers War. 1914, of course, First World War. We had the break of wars in conjunctions 27, 28. In a Second World War starting in 1931, but in 1941, when the conjunction was in the Taurus, we have a global because America joined the war, because before they were not part of it, they were trying to stay in. In the 54, 55, we have a decolonizations war in Africa, and also a start of a Suez crisis, you know, when Nasser confiscated the Suez Channel. So it was also very, very tense. 68, 69, it was a massive student protest, massive worldwide student reform. In Eastern Europe in 68, in Czechoslovakia, Jan Palach burns himself out of protest. You know, there was a massive protest, not war, but, and there were also protests against the, you know, systems and everything in Eastern Europe. In 1983, it was a critical year because of it was almost on the brink of the World War III, isolation of nuclear sites in Eastern Europe. It was just after the Falklands War, Persian Gulf War. In 1997, we have a nicely and peaceful conjunction. It was entwined with the Neptune, so arrival of internet, global things. 2010, I always remember Melanie. Melanie is here. Hi. She asked, we were on one of her lovely workshops, and she asked us, what do we think about Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, and it was in Aries. And I said, oh, I don't like it because this, Aries and Aryan energy, I didn't like it. But it was a beginning of Arab Spring, so it was again revolution and happenings. And now we have this one. It's not very easy, especially with these things which happen in between Israel and, and Palestine, and Israel and Iran now. So, but I should be optimist.
It's interesting. I just put the chart up for the 1858 Jupiter Uranus, which was 29 Taurus. It was pretty at that, very interesting degree. But what's also interesting is the Neptune, in late Pisces as well. And when you think about, when I think about the 1850s, particularly the late, it's not just about the building of the abolition of slavery, which is, Neptune and Pisces is about the underdog. It's about, and you can feel that now as well around the world. People are like really thinking about who is suffering here, so there's a real, commonality with that. And also, but the positive things about this was, in those 1850s, was the huge development and innovations with psychology, psychiatry, photography, all those Piscean things with Neptune and Pisces as well, which paved way for everything we have now. And so I think that, there's some positive things. And just to say, Sue put it, someone in the chat box put Sue, said about the moon landing. And the thing is, the moon landing was only days away from that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in 1969. And what I always think is when as humans we realized that we were walking on the moon, the feeling of that, the actual feeling of, when you look back and see people staring at their TV, looking at, men walking on the moon, the feeling of, oh my gosh, we can do this. It's a very Jupiter-Uranus excitement. It's elevating. It's really brave. And I think there still holds that, so there is a lot of things to look forward to. There's massive innovations that will happen. And every single Jupiter-Uranus conjunction comes with aviation innovations, the supersonic rocket, which is now being approved, created in 2011 in the last conjunction. So things like that, there's some really positive things, which is going to contribute to, again, that Taurus, what's yours and mine. It's going to break down those barriers that we struggle with globalization. We all struggle. Every nation tries to solve problems nationally when they're mostly global. And I think that Jupiter-Uranus will break down those barriers. And for example, aviation is one way that will do that very quickly.
And just to mention, in the the Wright brothers conducted their first experiments with the gliders during the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Sag it was between
conjunct the new moon.
Yes.
Yeah.
1901. So, that's connection with the aviation.
Yeah. And we can see it. If you can fly from, London to Sydney in an hour or two, which we should see, particularly now with Pluto and Aquarius as well, it's going to change our world and how we live it, how we see people, how we view humanity. It's going to rapidly change it. I mean, and it's going to happen in our lifetime.
And how about some wonderful new innovations with regard to feeding the planet? Because Taurus, Earth, things, growing food. And I was reading about the question of whether the floods in UAE and Dubai was something to do with the cloud seeding they've been doing there, and whether, that innovation, that trying to do something for humanity actually causing a catastrophe, and whether the innovation about let's feed the planet, let's find ways, to bring water where there's no water, and, but us kind of experimenting and therefore causing disasters. So I think it's less World War III and more catastrophes caused by our experimenting with and trying to improve feeding the planet.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think food, I mean, Taurus is very much about food, you know, and just like when Jupiter Saturn conjoined at 22 Taurus in the year 2000, you know, it was exact same degree as it is now. So that degree is being triggered. We had mad cow's disease, we had foot and mouth, and now we have this virus in Texas with cows. So you're going to get beef industry and all four-legged creatures, I think, you know, it's revolutionary. And it will always be really positive and really it will be challenging and positive. It will be everything. That's how it works. It doesn't really sway. It just provides lots of different expressions of it, I guess. So the food industry, and I do think sugar, well, you know, sugar, which is probably one of the worst things for human beings, really, you know, that, I mean, and I, you know, don't mean to project my own personal values, but sugar, you know, I mean, Taurus, Venus is sugar. So maybe revolution, you know, in that sort of thing. And like someone said in the chat box just now about being able, when you have aviation, when you can fly from, you know, one country to the other side of the world in an hour, that will free things up. I have family with me at the moment from New Zealand, and they are saying to buy a watermelon in New Zealand can cost up to $100, which is £50. To buy a cauliflower is about $15, which is $7.50. So exactly to your point, Leticia, and someone else in the chat box, what a difference it would make for people. But you know, whilst we argue about all the other Taurian things like exchange rates in different markets and hold on to our national identities, that won't happen until then. So hopefully Jupiter and Uranus will break that down, hopefully, or in some way, in a positive way, maybe.
And also, and being Taurus, also homing people, not just feeding them, but giving them shelter.
Shelter, yeah.
Finding innovative ways to solve the homeless crisis. That would be good.
Well, again, homelessness is not a problem in every single country. Poverty is, you know, Taurus is about, you know, what is yours and what is mine. And some people, you know, so whilst we live in a society where, you know, people judge on what they have and their standard of living and things like that, it's hard to break down those barriers. But Jupiter, Uranus do offer that. They offer a different way, I guess. And to the question, Christina, you asked about what did you ask? Something sorry, I can't remember, but sorry, I lost it, but I'll come back. I'll remember in a minute.
And we have a comment from someone like Taurus agriculture, from Bria, Taurus agriculture and soil. That's just what you were talking. And also online banking and Bitcoins, that can be as well connected with the Uranus and Jupiter, you know, and you know, our banking system, definitely they want to change. You know, I am fiercely refuse to give up a cash. I go with the cash. There is now not many coffee places where I can have a coffee, because why should anyone know where do I have a coffee? You know, so but these things, Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus may be something to be in connection with the banking and Bitcoins and other ways of paying for things.
Yeah.
And with Pluto and Aquarius as well, I think, you know, there's going to exactly things like open source, unregulated, different forms of money transactions and things like that. Will become more and more.
I have a little personal story about the Jupiter Uranus. Can I tell it?
Yes,
Yes,
of course.
sure.
So a couple of days ago, I got an email through from the project which was set up in 2019, because on the 15th of April 2019, that was the day that the famous Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris was burned almost to complete destruction. And I can still remember I first heard it on the radio. The actual alarm was raised at about 6:20 in the evening, I believe. And I was glued to the computer the whole evening. I absolutely horrified. And it felt to me like a terrible omen, you know, in terms of the symbolism. And it's a church dedicated to Our Lady, the Virgin Mary, or a representative of the feminine. And I just kept wondering, you know, what this would be about. But anyway, such was the grief and horror, they began fundraising immediately. And so I signed up for that, and I've been donating a little bit. So they send newsletters. And with this one, there was an announcement that after 5 years of renovation, they're pretty much set to have it open in the middle of December of this year. And of course, that's when Pluto goes into
back.
Aquarius for the last time.
Or goes back to yeah.
But also when and there were some links to some videos. There's loads of videos on YouTube about this if you're interested. And looking into the history. And it suddenly struck me, I had a kind of Uranus-Jupiter moment, which felt so enlivening and so interesting and so releasing somehow. You know, all the really potentially really painful negative symbolism of this fire burning this absolutely magnificent building with, you know, it's just short of 1,000 years that it's been there, with people praying in there every day, and it being a focus, you know, for the, not only for the Catholic religion actually. And you know, it had a very, very tall spire right in the center of the building, reaching way up. And I suddenly thought of the word aspiration. It's got the word spire in it. So this aspiration, and I still remember the image of when the spire was on fire, excuse the rhyme there, and this enormous, I forget the numbers, but it's incredibly high. And it sort of broke in half in the middle and absolutely crashed down, and the people down below were screaming and wailing. It was so powerful. And it just seemed to me in that moment when I opened the email, full of Jupiter-Uranus symbolism, the spire that was the symbol of the aspirations, the spiritual aspirations of the people, burned up and destroyed and crashed down. And it's been rebuilt. And they made the decision to rebuild everything exactly as it was before. But they've also done it with this breathtaking combination of very, very high-tech digital stuff. So there's some incredible stuff online where you can see the progress of how the rebuilding went. And you can see the digital drawings of what they were doing. But then, and here comes the Taurus bit, looking back into the history, Notre Dame, they began building it in 1163. And according to Wikipedia, it was between March the 24th and April the 24th. So I got curious and thought, oh, what was going on then, you know? And I just started with March the 24th. And on that day, there's a grand trine with, I think it's 7 planets in fire. And the only Earth is Venus in Taurus. And wouldn't you know it, the degree is right where the current Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is sitting right now. So I thought that was a marvelous piece of connection way across the centuries. And then there was something else I was going to say about it. Oh yes, the Taurus bit. So the painstaking crafts work. So the Greek god Hephaestus, he was the craftsman of the Olympian pantheon. And he was the one that made all of the attributes by which the gods were known, you know, like Mercury's helmet and his sandals and the shield of Athena and all that. He supposedly crafted all of this, the insignia by which we know the gods, okay? So it gives the gods form. So I thought, oh, this is the perfect Taurus image, because there are hundreds and hundreds of people involved. So there were more than 600 firemen from all areas around Paris that took part in the effort to put the fire out, and nobody died and nobody was injured, which is incredible. It's an absolute inferno that happened. And so then along come these kind of Hephaestus fellows, and some women too, but and these are the highly trained craftsmen who still know the ancient techniques with which Chartres was built. So there they are, you know, with their hand axes and small saws, and, you know, painstakingly shaving off bits of wood to make joists which will fit under the roof and this kind of thing. And the amount of precision and detail and painstakingly, devotionally, bit by bit, inch by inch, rebuilding this masterpiece. And there've been a massive team of them doing it for, well, 5 years this week, you know. So the persistence and the respect for the old, they're not wanting it to change. I mean, they could have knocked it all down and built something new, you know, something new and modern, but they used all the modern techniques. Incredible, you know, these computer boffins. But one of the most amazing images in one of the videos I saw is there's a draftsman, I mean, a guy with a pencil and paper. And he's an architect who knows about all the force vectors. And if you build it this way, it'll get a force that way, and how to prop things up so they balance, and mind-boggling technology. And he followed people around, including the fire brigade. So he was there with a pad and pencil, telling people what to do and where to put the water and what would be likely to collapse next, and just absolutely incredible. So to me, Taurus is also quite a devotional sign. It's ruled by Venus, of course, and one could think of the Virgin Mary as a representative of aspects of Venus. And so for me, I won't rave on, but for me, it was just like I opened my email, you know, kind of rather routinely, kind of having my morning coffee, and I read this email, and all of a sudden there was a Jupiter-Uranus experience, and I felt filled with inspiration and hope, and the kind of blending of the past and the future. And anyway, it was very inspiring. So I'll stop now.
Thanks, Melanie. I think you mentioned something really, really important here, and these are the themes of destruction and rebuilding.
Exactly.
When we talk about this conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, what does it signify? What should we get rid of? And what should we focus on rebuilding in our society, in our personal life? This is more towards Wendy and Jadranka, but everyone else can contribute as well.
What should we get rid of? You know, Taurus is so material sign. As Wendy said, what is mine, it's mine. What is yours is yours. Maybe we should start thinking that on this, you know, plane, thinking that Earth does not belong to us, only to us. It belongs to everyone, and it belongs to animals and the plants and the water and everything around us. You know, Uranus was one of the first gods, you know, god of the sky. Gaia was god of the earth, so we have a Venus, which we may, say it's an earth goddess as well. So maybe we should learn not to waste our planet. That's what I'm thinking.
But,
Yeah,
but
I also think, sorry, Melanie, I'm going to jump in here. The Venus on the ACG maps runs through Dubai, which is a dispositor of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, runs through Dubai on the ACG maps. But also, what's really interesting is Saturn. It's a bit of a Saturn return for Dubai at the moment. This is really interesting that Dubai. I mean, this is very freakish. I know there's a lot of theories going around out there. But there's this is a question that was asked before that but this is a country, of course, that has quite endless funds, and has built the first to build in the sea. It's had the highest building in the world for many, many years in the Burj Al Arab. And so the Saturn return for the Burj Al Arab is now, so because it was built in 94. So this is interesting. And the Jupiter-Uranus, I mean, the fact that this is about weather, floods, this is all that, Jupiter-Uranus. I think this is about also, technologies that we haven't seen before. Also, I mean, I know some of you heard me banter on about the body as well. And this is part of our evolution as transhuman. With limbs and new organs and things like that are going to transform us as humans, and it's already happening. And there's things like the Cyborg Foundation, for example, where you can have where one woman has things in the soles of her feet, and she can feel any earthquake on the planet. She can feel earthquakes on the moon. Things like that. We've got virtual reality now that you can smell. This is so Taurian when you can, the first thing in VR that becomes sensory is smell, beyond sight, of course, and hearing, but smell, so yeah, lots of revolutionary stuff in technology, and particularly with food, particularly.
Do you mind if I share a poem?
Sure, if we've got time, Christina. Do we have time? I mean, yep.
Yeah, we have a bit of time, yeah.
Okay, I'll just quickly read it to you. It's a poem I wrote, but I think it's very relevant. Born into slavery are we, who on earth can set us free from the unseen chains that bind and overtake the human mind. We shuffle, slumbering down the street, poisoned by what we see and eat, believing that we still have choices when, in truth, we're ruled by voices, convincing us of what we need, fueled by commercial greed, telling us we're somehow lacking, trusting media, blindly snacking, seeking to fill gaps with stuff, because we learn we're not enough. Nature waits with all her gifts, while glued to screens, our focus shifts. Once on planet Earth we'd live, sated by the joy to give. But slowly that's reversed and set us up to crave what we can get. Tobacco, sacred once, now kills where native spirits roamed the hills. And sugar, wrenched from slaving brow, creates an epidemic now.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow.
Very cool.
Thanks, Letitia. And speaking of media, what headlines can we expect that align with this conjunction?
Can I jump in there when only because Jadranka, I used to do the same job as Jadranka at the lodge. So in 2006, I think it was, with the beginners class, and we had explored the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Taurus with the mad cows, with the foot and mouth disease. And at the same time, there was the Chiron-Neptune-Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius at 22-23, square to the lineup in Taurus. And the lodge, and I've got the recording of this, it's got to come out, the students, beginners students, I asked a question, what's going to be in the paper on the Sunday Times? And they said it's going to be similar to foot and mouth or similar to mad cows. And on that Sunday, in the Sunday Times, we had swine flu released on that Sunday, and it's recorded. I need to dig that out. So it's going, and of course, what's happened already in Texas with the virus, with the cows, I think we're going to find, and of course, you know, it involves birds because Pluto's in Aquarius as well, and it's Jupiter, Uranus, so it's sky. So I think we're going to have, yeah, it's going to be a shift in I don't know what you call it, what birds do. I don't know. I don't really know. But you know, in terms of, you know, I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's about this, you know, the sky and the earth. And so, which is pretty much what Dubai is about. But there's going to be more of that, I think, over the next week. So yeah,
well, we've been messing with the sky in order to, like, you know, the cloud seeding I mentioned, but we've been messing with the sky in order to try and improve our growing and everything on Earth. So, you know, maybe there's something to do with that, what we've been doing to alter in an Aquarian way, if you like, the way that nature operates, and how that is going to come back and kick us a bit. So rather than a war, I think it's more like what's happening.
It will be, you know, challenging and positive as well, but you will always get that. It can never be just positive. That's the thing, you know. It's and that's, you know, I know we hope for that, but there will always be something. I mean, even the manipulation of weather, which, you know, I'm not talking about putting a nuclear bomb into a cyclone, which is, you know, had been suggested previously, but you know, there are going to be benefits of weather manipulation. There could be benefits of that. There really could be, you know, particularly when you're thinking of climate change. If there was a possibility of us making a difference. So, you know,
weather manipulation is nothing new. It happened before. You know, I know in the 70s or 80s in former Yugoslavia, especially when in the summer, when they wanted to prevent like a storm, summer, like rain, when the wheat was drying and need to be dry, they had a way to start that rain earlier. I don't know how, but they did it. And also we had the prayers before for the rain, you know, we will pray to, I don't know, have rituals to have. So, you know, this was something, now it's involved. Now it has Uranian factor in it. But before it was probably just hope. And I can see that Mila, she put her hand. Would you like to say something, Emily?
Yes, the rain, like in France, there's a huge amount of rain. But don't we forget that in the same time that the Uranus Jupiter conjunction is in Taurus, that Pluton is at the end of Capricorn, and Neptune is at the end of Pisces. And the Neptune in Pisces is very well speaking by all the rain what is coming. You can't exclude only, or you can't focus, in my opinion, only on that conjunction. You have to include the rest of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. And it all happens in context of the larger cycle of Pluto Neptune of early 1890s as well, which is, you know, this is where all these cycles are in context of not just the larger ones, but or what's happening now, but also within the larger cycle. So it's exactly, yeah. And there's a lot going on. You know, this is what's happened in the last 4 years astrologically, you know, astronomically, is quite, you know, we're still struggling, you know, to deal with it. We're still post-COVID around the world, you know, dealing with, you know, global depression on many levels, and, you know, kids have lost years of their life, and now, you know, we have so, you know, I think everyone's just trying to get back on board and have a good year. Everyone just wants to have a good year. It's been a long time, hasn't it? Since, you know, it's been a long time.
I think that it's interesting, though, to look at how does this conjunction differ because of the other planetary actions from other conjunctions within Taurus of Jupiter and Uranus, because we talked about 1941, but it was different because there were other things going on that made it different, that influenced it. So, has there ever been a Taurus, a conjunction of Uranus and Jupiter and Taurus that had the outer planets also lined up as they are right now?
Yes, we did. Like Jadranka said in 1858, and then we
1850.
well, it had Neptune at the end of Pisces. So that
Yeah.
was, that was like earlier addressed earlier. And in 1941, we're all, the Oscar-taking movie this year was Oppenheimer.
Oh, I know.
Oppenheimer very much refers to 1941. It's the cycle. It's that same cycle coming back.
Yeah.
And that's what we see. We see that, and it doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be bombs, but it's still in our consciousness. It's still in our media, whether it's real or not. But the point is that this becomes conscious within the collective.
Yeah.
So yeah, you see that same thing.
Yeah.
You see that same thing.
But Pluto was not in the same position in 1941.
No,
No, it wasn't.
Opposite position. Can I make a rather dynamic point? It's occurred to me as I'm looking at this, there's this conjunction in Taurus, and you've got this incredible stellium advancing from Pisces through Aries into Taurus as we develop through these coming months. And I've got the feeling that the effect of this conjunction is going to intensify as each of the inner planets approaches towards it. And of course, in the end, in 26 or in 25 to 26, you've got Saturn moving into Aries and Neptune moving into Aries, and that's when a real spiritual regeneration happens. So we're in this kind of dynamic beginning point of incredible change. And it's wonderful to hear what you've said so far today, that you've given great colour to the change that's coming, this big change that's coming. I just wanted to say that. And I'd be very grateful to hear everything everybody said in the last hour.
Thanks, Roy. Caroline has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. I just want to make a terribly simple point. But it's incredibly easy for us all, even although we all know something, to just forget very basic things. And although we keep talking about cycles, it isn't a cycle really, it's actually a spiral. And this is why I think Wendy is absolutely right in saying there's a lot of positive changes coming, because this is not a cycle going round and round, back to 41, back to whatever. It's a spiral. And consequently, there are echoes, yes, but there's a lot of new stuff. And this isn't conjunct Algol. It's not at the end of Taurus, the final, the end of things. It's not conjunct Pleiades or anything like that. It's unfortunately trying the 1999 eclipse, but it's a trying. So, I think there's been too much doom said about this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. And I think Wendy in a previous talk did remind people about Barbeau saying it was a very positive aspect, so.
Well, he
just
didn't
let's
say
remember it's a
Jupiter
spiral.
Uranus.
Just let's remember
said
it's
about
a
the grand
spiral,
six.
and we're not going to get a whole
Well,
load of shit
yeah.
yet again.
And next conjunction, Jupiter-Uranus is in a Cancer in 2037-8. There are 3 conjunctions. So, and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So, and Cancer, I always find like a emotional sign. So, future is bright. Yeah. But we have someone, Bria, saying there is a virus again in US, just what Wendy mentioned. If it's different than.
Yeah, Bria, we did talk about
Yes.
that. Yeah, exactly. In Texas.
And
Yeah.
so says there are no squares from other major planets. Nila says that Uranus is conjuncting Algol exactly 1 year from now. But it will not be any more Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So, you know, things change, develop, move on. You know, astrology helps us to look at things a little bit differently and to understand things differently.
Yeah, and I think with the dispositive Venus being conjoined to Chiron as well, along with Neptune and Pisces, and the moon of the exact conjunction is at the last degree of Virgo. You know, I mean, this will hopefully play into innovations in health technologies, healing. You know, this is and like someone mentioned earlier before, the healing with Venus Chiron, which I think is also played into that. And again, someone said there's no hard aspects really. So yeah, that makes a difference. It does make a difference. But I do think we'll see things with body, like, you know, it is about revolutionizing health. That moon is like 29-39 on the exact conjunction of Virgo, and Venus conjoined to Chiron. So something has to be, resolved. Something has to be healed. Wounds, and I mean, we have wars at the moment going on, which are about old wounds. So yeah, opportunities are, you know, there are opportunities to do that, but yeah, whether it eventuates or not, you know, this
conjunction also, Uranus, Jupiter-Uranus conjunction sextile the Mars at 23 degrees of Pisces.
22, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, giving it, you know, probably emphasis of the war, but, you know, Mars is not a bad position. It's in his triplicity. So, you know, although it's in a Pisces and it's somehow softened, and Neptune is 6 degrees away. So, you know, I always think Neptune will dissolve when Mars comes to it. So I don't know. Things will get better.
Hopefully,
Anna has asked about, hi Anna, about recalling the egalitarian nature of Uranus opening up opportunities for more equal connectedness between religious groups. You know, I think with Jupiter-Uranus, it's about, part of that is about breaking down the boundaries of religious groups as well. So I think that particularly with Pluto and Aquarius, the hierarchy of religion, and things like that, because there is hierarchy of, you know, it's which we're still warring over. Then I think that Jupiter-Uranus plays a part in breaking it down, because Pluto and Aquarius is about equality. You know.
Yeah, but Wendy, Pluto and Aquarius is also about arrogant certainty. I know is a key word, and what we're seeing in the world at the moment is masses of subcultures knowing better than all the other subcultures, and of course we've got to raise our consciousness to the higher vibration of Aquarius, which is exactly what you described. But the problem is the struggle between the lower vibration that we're suffering from and the higher vibration that we need. And we just pray that people can go through and suffer enough to realize there's no point in pushing their arrogance any further and starting listening to other people. This is what I pray for every day.
And maybe Chiron can help there.
Yeah, hopefully something can, because it's really terrible the way not listening.
I can see a lady.
Yeah, well, the problem is not religion. It never is about religion. It's just about the people. You know.
Yeah. I mean, belief is good. It's what people do with belief.
Of course. Yeah.
Every religion is worth listening to.
There's a lady with her hand up.
Yeah, Alison.
Sorry. Hi. I was just thinking, well, firstly, sort of in line with what Roy said, that of course Uranus is dispositing Pluto at the moment, so the conjunction with Jupiter is going to have an effect on that. But I was also wondering about it being the beginning of a cycle, and that at the moment, actually, it's a bit like an old moon or something. It's coming to the end of a cycle. And I haven't seen that sort of talked about very much. So I wonder what people's kind of takes on that, because until we actually obviously get to the conjunction, you've got that sort of new seed moment then, and, you know, new things beginning. So I haven't seen that discussed very much. Any thoughts, anyone? Sorry, I don't have any
Well,
thoughts.
no, I mean, well, it's the end of a cycle. So what was going on, 14 years ago is coming to an end, but there's still, the debris of it, I guess. And there's still the echoes of what it was doing before and always has
Excuse
done
me,
before.
can I please butt in here and say, what was going on 14 years ago was we got this bloody awful Conservative government in the UK, 2010. And if that's coming to an end and you're forecasting that, Wendy, yes!
Well, I don't,
There's a point.
Yeah, and it is a point, and there's a lot of things like that. The Arab Spring was, very much a part of that cardinal cross, which Jupiter and Uranus were part of for many years. So, and Pluto being part of that, and Saturn as well, and even Mars to a certain point. So yeah, it is the end of one cycle and the beginning of new ones, but that comes to an ending of things like it was in the Arab Spring. But the endings of some things which were very positive and some not so much. So that's what we get. That's what we can expect. And yeah, like Roy said, and you, Alison, as well, the Pluto and Aquarius, it's a different world. It's quite a different world, and it's going to be really challenging to navigate our way through this over the, but Caroline said as well that the Andre Barbeau, I know that Roy, you may not agree with this, but Andre Barbeau saw the grand sextile of Jupiter coming into Gemini, Saturn, Neptune coming into Aries, and all sextiling and trining with Pluto and Aquarius being the best 6 years of the century. So I'm more than happy to put my money on Andre Barbeau.
Can I clarify my position on that a bit? I'm not disagreeing with what you just said, Wendy, at all. What I'm seeing is that we are coming to the end of even more cycles than anybody's mentioned. As this Neptune, Saturn in Pisces is moving through incredible suffering in order to liberate, in a way, hoping that we will learn from our mistakes, And Andre was saying that the planets are coming to look at this cyclic index. They're coming to a high point where they go into all these harmonious relationships. There's a chart I put up for 2025, which shows exactly what you're talking about. But the point is, we have to learn the lessons so that we're ready to harness the new potential. And the changes at the moment are enormous. They're changes that go back hundreds or even thousands of years. Cycles are all going through an incredible transformation at the moment. And we've got to grow up and not stop looking backwards and start looking forwards into a wonderful new future. Then what Barbeau's talking about is possible. And that's what the next 2, 3, 4 years are all about, I think.
There's a lady with her hand up.
So, thank you. Yes, I wanted to address Alison's question about cycle, what kind of ending and beginning we had, and it just reminded me. Just a few days ago, I read a lot of news in the morning online, and get things sent to me and so forth. And I read these 2 stories. I'm glad I read them in the order I did. And the one was so disturbing about, in Africa, millions of donkeys are being bought up and taken and so forth, and really shipped over to China for a certain kind of medicine or substance that is the elites and actually more the middle class even are using. And it's taking away all this transportation, all this, the important physical help that the donkeys provide to African families, and the Africa and countries are actually moving to prevent this. They've been actually working for years to try to stop this. But when you think of the Taurus, location of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and this ending beginning, they see this devastating thing happening with this population, and it takes actually millions of donkeys a year for them to even create this whatever substance that's going to give people rejuvenation or sexual prowess or whatever it is that they're getting out of it, sadly. But on the other hand, there was yet maybe 2 stories later, I was salved a little bit by this other story, which is that also in Africa, because the drought has been terrible in certain areas of the Horn of Africa and so forth, and they've lost so many cows, which has been so instrumental to their economy, and even just getting milk for human consumption. They are now bringing in camels, and the government is actually buying camels at $600 each and giving them to these families who have they described this incredible lottery where all these families had a number and they got to meet their new camel, because the camels can produce milk, and also the camels are so sturdy, and it's almost like this continent, which I think will be hit very, very hard, not just me, but many people, with climate change, is actually transforming. There's these terrible things that are ending, just terrible, that they're losing these beloved animals. And yet now other animals are stepping in, and they're actually helping, not just with the milk, but also with the packing, carrying and stuff like that. We're really faced with these terrible issues with climate change, and that is definitely this Taurus theme. And here we're seeing real time the transition, and I think we just have to be hopeful. If we're not hopeful, we really are going to fail in meeting this crisis.
Yeah, I think we need to collaborate with one another towards, solving environmental issues. I know in the January-February issue of the Astrological Journal, Anne Whittaker talked about this conjunction, and she mentioned that there will be a strive for survival. So in order to avoid crisis, we need to think about our actions in advance and take proper measures. Thanks, Sue. With that said, our time is really limited by now. We're over 5 minutes. Caroline, would you like to say something before we finished? I know you had your hand up.
Well, it's terribly simple, really. I wondered if Wendy could help. I was just wondering if she could have a quick shifty at the ACG world map on this, so that we could see which places in the world have the Uranus Jupiter conjunction bang on their ascendant. It's the places where they've got it bang on their ascendant I'd like to know about. Thank you, if possible.
Well, I can quickly tell you, well, the Venus does run through the UAE, which I think is quite interesting. But actually, no, I lied. No, yes, it does. Or does it? The Jupiter-Uranus runs up the side on the ascendant, the north of India through the Middle East, which Pluto, the parans of that meet in Tehran. On the where Pluto is on the midheaven, Jupiter-Uranus on the ascendant. The actual Jupiter-Uranus on the midheaven run through this pretty much through New Zealand and Australia on the midheaven and up through. It only really hits the Canary Islands and Greenland on the IC. And on the descendant, it runs through Mexico and Houston, which is exactly where the eclipse line was. And where the eclipse was, not only in terms of visibility, but in terms of where it was located. So that area again, and of course, we got the cow issue in Texas. This is where the cow issue, the virus of the bird flu, the new bird flu, is in exactly the same area where that Jupiter-Uranus is on the descendant. So yeah, that's where it's at, Caroline.
So it's on the ascendant in India and the Middle East.
Yeah. But we haven't really
great.
got time to go into it. But yeah, like Neil
No.
says, India has elections now, and there's lots of well, it's the biggest election year.
Yes.
64 elections and unprecedented, and yeah. So
It's
again, this is interesting. Yeah, really interesting.
The reason I was interested in the ascendant is because, of course, the ascendant is a doorway in, and I think those places might have a much bigger oomph, possibly.
Maybe. I did really like what Amanda Williams is saying. Hi, Amanda. If we can end maybe on, it may need change for the common good of humanity, but we don't know what good means in the longer context. We have our own biases regarding what good is, but we maybe something completely different that we don't yet recognize or understand. And that's exactly how and I think that's, we think we're doing good. You know, the invention of the car was a good, was a all these things that we've done. Sugar, how wonderful. We sometimes we don't know what we do. So I really like that, Amanda. Yeah, thank you.
That's great.
Okay, so first of all, thanks Wendy and Jadranka, and thanks everyone for contributing to these discussions. It's been a great night. I really enjoyed it. Join us on our next meeting on the 24th of May, where Rod Chang and Chris Mitchell talk about the Saturn semi-square Pluto. It will be really interesting. I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Christina, and thanks everyone.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Bye. If you can all just press the leave button in the bottom right, I won't shut down the room just yet.